Hello students. This video lecture is an initiative taken by Shet Vidya Mandir Junior College of Commerce and Science. This video lecture is for 12th standard commerce students and our today's topic is
Types of preference shares. Types of preference shares are categorized in four parts. Each four parts has two types. These four categories are based on such titles. First is on the basis of cumulative. Second, on the basis of participation. Third, convertible, or you can say conversion. And fourth, redeemable or redemption. Each of this category has two types like cumulative and non-cumulative. In participating and non-participating. In convertible and non-convertible, and in redemption, redeemable and irredeemable. Today we will discuss with these 8 types of preference shares. Before starting with explanation, for each category I will be giving you the most important technical words which you should or you have to include in your answer. These technical words, they actually are the main titles which supports each category and each type of preference share. For example, in cumulative preference shares and non-cumulative preference share, to remember it, the most important title for the concept is accumulated profits. For participating, the important technical word is surplus profits. For conversion, important title is equity shares. And for redemption and redeemable irredeemable, the important title is to pay back. These titles you can see in your textbook or any reference book, but these titles are the most important titles which actually clears the concept or which actually is explaining the concept. So let's start with our first category, that is cumulative. In cumulative preference shares. Students, every preference share is by default a cumulative preference shares. A person or an investor who is a preference shareholder has a right to receive fixed rate of dividend. But if the company is not in a situation or it is not performing well, it is facing some financial crisis, the company won't be able to give dividend for that year, and that year's dividend will be accumulated aside, or you can say it can be given in the next year or when the company has a good position or when it starts performing well. Again here the preference shareholder is secured, as if the company is not paying in this year, in next year it will pay, and that too before the equity shareholders. Accumulated means the dividend of each year which is not paid, they are gathered and kept aside. This unpaid dividend is a liability for the company until it's paid. As I said, every preference share is by default a cumulative preference share unless any other type is expressed or written in articles of association of a company. Whichever type of preference shares companies issues, it is stated in the articles of association. Now let's see non-cumulative preference share. Non-cumulative preference share is totally opposite of cumulative preference share. Here the dividend is not accumulated, it is not gathered. If the company is not in a position to pay dividend to the preference shareholder, then it will be a loss for a preference shareholder. They won't get any dividend in that year. Company can pay dividend to non-cumulative preference shares only when they are making profit. That means from the current year's profit, a company can pay dividend to the cumulative preference shares. If the company is not performing well, they won't pay them and it will be a loss for the preference shareholder. Now, let's move to the next type of preference share, that is based on participation. Here, the important title is surplus profit. Students, at the end of the year, that is on 31st March, every company calculates their profit, and out of that profits, they have to pay interest to the debenture holders and then fixed rate of dividend to the preference shareholder. After that, equity shareholders get their dividend. But after paying them all, if there are more profits left, if there are more profits in the company, this type of preference share are entitled to participate in that surplus profits. They have received their fixed rate of dividend, but after paying dividend to equity shareholders, if there is surplus profit remain, this type of preference share can participate and take this profit. Now, non-participating preference shares is totally opposite of participating preference shares. The preference shares are deemed to be non-participating. That means every preference share is by default considered as non-participating preference shares until and unless there is a clear provision in the Articles of Association. That means if the Articles of Association states that the type of preference shares is participating, then only preference shareholder can participate in the surplus profit. But if it is not stated, it is by default treated as non-participating preference shares. Now, our next type of preference share is convertible and non-convertible. Convertible preference shares are those preference shares which are converted into equity shares after a certain period of time. The date of conversion is decided at the time of issue. So, the preference shareholders becomes the equity shareholders, and then he will be receiving dividend at fluctuating rate. Non-convertible preference shares are those preference shares which cannot be converted into equity shares. Now, our last category is redemption. Students, redemption means to pay back. As we have learned from the features that the nature of preference share capital, it is not permanent, it is temporary. That means the company has to pay preference shareholder their capital back. A company cannot keep the amount of preference share lifelong. A company can keep the money of preference share to the maximum period of 20 years. So, redeemable preference shares are those preference shares which are redeemed or paid back after a certain period of time. Before paying back, the company has to follow some procedures and rules. Out of them, one rule is that preference shares should be fully paid up. To pay back the preference shareholders or to redeem the preference shares, the company can use its accumulated profits, that is reserves, or a company can further raise capital through equity shares and pay to the preference share, that is out of fresh issue of shares. Our last type of preference share is irredeemable preference shares. These shares are those shares which are not redeemable, that is they are not paid till the lifetime of the company or paid at the winding up of the company when the company is closing down. But the section 55 subsection 1 of the Companies Act prohibits the companies to issue irredeemable preference shares. A company cannot issue irredeemable preference shares. In next lecture we will see features of debentures and types of debentures. Many of the types of debentures are same as preference share types. Half of the answer is similar. Thank you.